partition was one of the worst traumas in South Asian histories. After decades of pain, do projects like Dastan or the 1947 Partition Archives, do they help in closure or healing per se?
I think they're more about what we talked about the other day, about the act of don't forget. Because frankly, the trauma was experienced by a generation that is now passing on. I mean, let's face it. How many people were adults in 1947 who are still alive today? Practically no one. Now the survivors are children who remember the trauma of their parents and grandparents that they were told. There are now attempts by this generation to preserve some of those memories before even those are irretrievably lost. So you've got the Partition Museum in Amritsar. There is a Partition Museum in Delhi that's come up. You've also got Project Dastan, this virtual reality thing where you can go using modern technology and satellites and go and see your old home before partition and so on. Some of these things that are happening are ways of keeping alive a memory. But let's face it, Ranjan, I've got to be very honest with you. 77 years of separation mean that these things will mean less and less with each succeeding generation. And when you think of the fact that today Pakistanis have had 3 generations of being told that they cannot live with Hindus, they have nothing to do with Hindus, they don't understand anything to do with Hinduism and Hindu faith and so on, when even those things in their culture that were derived from Hindu traditions are being denied to them. When you've had 3 generations growing up with this kind of indoctrination, will they feel the same affinity to India that this earlier generation felt? I find it difficult to understand. I can tell you, I went to Pakistan many years ago when I was at the UN, and I was taken to a museum called Lok Virsa. Lok Virsa was about the virasat, the heritage of the Pakistani people. And they had different rooms showing the influence of Samarkand, the influence of Uzbekistan, the influence of Turkey, the influence of Persia. And I kept wandering and looking for the room with the influence of India. There wasn't one. There is this total denial that they ever were part of India, had anything to do with India. That's the kind of thing they're trying to inculcate in the people.
There are moving stories of, say, siblings reuniting at Kartarpur Sahib. Then this is after decades. There are heartfelt messages from Amritsar's Partition Museum. Partition, it was a line drawn on the map, but was it really on the hearts as well?
Not of those of that generation, no. I knew many people from that generation who still thought of Lahore or Karachi as home, even if they were living in Delhi. I know people who managed to visit their old homes and were touched. Almost everyone that I spoke to had this experience, was welcomed very warmly by the new inhabitants. And in one rather surprising and moving story, a person told me how he went to his old home. It was actually his parents' home. He'd been a child there. And the person not only welcomed him in, but he said, "Let me show you something." And he took this person, this Hindu Indian, to a closed cupboard and opened it. And inside were the murtis that the family had done puja with. He said, "We did not destroy what you worshipped. We kept it locked because it's not our gods, it's not our thing, but it is there for you, and if you want, you can have it." Now, this was a very moving thing for him because he never expected that. Remember, these people fled their homes at no notice whatsoever, leaving pretty much everything behind. Photographs, memories, books, drawings, albums, everything. Some people just took fragments with them, which somehow have survived. There's a very, very moving set of these sort of artifacts that people came back with. But what they left behind often lingered longer in the memories because these were things they would never see again. So those who could go back and see them have found this very, very moving. And I will say, ultimately, the hatred of partition has long since disappeared from the hearts of most people. But they get stoked up again when war, terrorism, and this kind of horror comes up. And there was a time, I would say, as late as the early 70s, when there was still a generation of Pakistanis who were willing to say partition was a mistake. Today, I don't think we'll find any. It's just been too long, too many decades of indoctrination. I remember in 70, what would it have been, 75, so 4 years after the 71 war, I was flying to Europe or somewhere, and for some reason, the flight had to transit through Karachi airport. So I was at the airport. I had no visa to enter Pakistan anyway, but I was just going around the shops and seeing things. And one guy came up to me. I don't know why he thought that maybe I wasn't Pakistani. He started chatting. When he discovered I was Indian, he said, what a big mistake this was. You know, in 71, we should have just finished this whole thing and got together as one country again. In Pakistan, youngish man, somebody must have been born at that point, I would say, not much before partition. And I thought, wow, are there people in Pakistan who think like this? But I also realized when I next was actually able to make a proper visit to Pakistan, which was 30 years after that, that sentiment is now no longer present. And I think in India too, there are too many people who feel, even those who used to be advocates of Akhand Bharat, you know, reuniting the whole of India, they're beginning to say, but it'll be too much of a headache. Too many of these people are irremediably opposed to the idea of living with us. We may as well be better off keeping them apart. So you've got this kind of separation in the hearts, in the minds. And, you know, just as colonialism affected the minds of people, partition has also affected the minds of people.
To healing of the fault lines then, Dr. Shashi Tharoor, thank you very much.
Thank you, Raj. Partition shattered millions of lives. Its scars run deep across generations. Just confronting that pain is not enough. It's our collective responsibility to learn from that brutal chapter of our history and never repeat it again.